All right. We're looking at the life of David, and I just want to continue on what we've been looking at. Some very important material we're looking at. Last week, I woke some of you up with the lion sounds and the bear sounds. But to do that today, I may do it next week. But little background, Goliath, the Philistine, turn to 1 Samuel 17, by the way. Goliath, the Philistine, presents himself here in this context every morning and every evening in the Valley of Elah. And that's a huge canyon, approximately 1 mile wide, huge slope on each side. And as I get into this, let me encourage the young people, just kind of hold things. Don't have to run to the restroom unless it's an emergency. And stay involved in the message here, all right? It's distracting to people and to me, but unless it's an emergency, of course. Now, let's talk about the army of Israel. What do you know about that? Well, these are men in the army of Israel at that time who were taken from their homes on the spur of the moment to serve their ruler. And their families were responsible for feeding them, not like our military. And so these men, actually, when they went to fight, would do their best to live off the land. Okay, they'd hunt, the crops, if they were around crops, they'd eat the corn, the wheat, and their families were actually responsible for feeding them. And so they would sometimes send one of their family members to the field, and they would check in at a guard station, and the guard would take their food, or whatever they have that's assigned for their sons, daughters, whatever, and make sure it got to them. So I kind of see that happening there with David, and delivering the food. His dad told him to deliver to the captain and to his brethren. David's father, of course, sent him with 9 gallons of parched corn. I would call that an energy snack. And 10 loaves of bread, and the 10 loaves of bread would last for several days. 10 wedges of cheese for their captain. And he said, you find out how your brothers are faring or doing. So David comes to the battlefront. What does he hear? He hears the shouts of the army. There you hear the shouts of the army. And he watches the army of Israel flee, run. And the armies of Israel, the troops, are fleeing for their lives. It says in the Bible they're sore afraid, they're terrified. Now, look at 1 Samuel 17, look at verse 25. And the men of Israel say to David, and I'll just put it in my own words, hey, David, have you ever seen anything like this? This man, they point to Goliath, is openly embarrassing us. He's bringing shame to the nation of Israel. And David said, what's going to be done for the man who kills this giant? And so he finds out Saul's incentive program for killing giants. Here it is. To the man who kills Goliath, you can marry my daughter. And I'm thinking with David, he's saying, well, gag, gag, gag. Not much of an incentive. And you and your father's house won't have to pay taxes till you die. Now, he kind of likes that. Plus, you get a lot of big bucks. You're going to be rewarded lots of money. The problem was that incentive program wasn't working. No volunteers. So I came up with the insight. Here's an insight. External motivation was not doing the job. Giving away hot dogs, banana splits, whatever, was not doing the job. And then the next insight I wrote down was don't tolerate giants in your life. If you don't deal with them, they'll deal with you. They'll kill you. That's the giants in your life, which I wish we had time now to stop and say, what are the giants in your life? Some of you would say health. Some of you would say finances. Some of you would say siblings. Some of you would say family. We could go on and on. So look at verse 26. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man that killeth this Philistine? Now, I would probably be better like this. What shall be done with the man that killeth this Philistine? So David wasn't an old man at this time. I think his voice may have been changing, whatever. And what shall be done for the man that kills this giant and taketh away the reproach of Israel? So what is David concerned about? He's concerned about the reputation of Israel. He's concerned about the reputation of the people of God. What's going to be done for the man away a reproach from Israel? And that reproach speaks of shame or disgrace. And look, verse 28, you find David's oldest brother, Eliab, accuses David of coming for the wrong motives. So you picture Eliab, big, tall Eliab, handsome, the one that's chosen first by Samuel, the prophet, but God said, no, I don't look on the outward, I look on the inward. Go get David. And I look on the heart. And here's Eliab coming over to David and said, I know your pride. You really think you're big stuff, David. Don't you? Look at me, David. I see right through you. I know why you're here. You're here, David, and shooting your big mouth off so people will think you're really cool. That's right. So I know your pride and I know the naughtiness of thine heart. You have a dirty, wicked heart, David. Now that kind of smote him, because David was a man after God's own heart. David, I know you're proud. I know you have an evil heart. Your attitude is wrong. Your motives are wrong. And he says, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. You're not concerned about the reputation of God, David. You're simply here to see the battle. And one writer said, you're simply here so you can put on display your warrior skills. You want to see people fighting. You want bloodshed. That's why you're here, David. Look what David said. Verse 29, and David said, what have I now done? So basically what he's saying is, what's the problem here? What have I done to be such an offense to you, Eliab? I'm here because Dad sent me here. It's not me who has caused God's people to lose their testimony. Look at what's happening to the military. There's a much bigger issue here. And then he says those very famous words. Is there not a cause? Is there not a cause? He turned, look at verse 30, from him toward another, spoke after the same manner, and the people answered him again after the former manner. He says, there not a cause? What does that mean? What's David saying? He's saying this is not simply a petty skirmish, brother. Brother, this isn't just a difference of opinion. This is an issue. This is a matter. This is a word to be spoken about. This is a purpose. There's a mission statement to be made about all of this. So it's like looking to all the army saying, hey guys, what's the bigger picture here? This is actually a theological issue or a doctrinal issue. We're concerned about people's view of God. So the men were saying, oh, look at the giant. The giant will kill us. Look out for the giant. Run from the giant. What's David saying? What giant? Look at God. God can kill that giant. Look out for God. The reputation of God's at stake here. Run to God. Let him be glorified. It's God's glory that is at stake here. Now the venue changes. The situation becomes different. Someone hears all these things that David is saying, and it reaches the ears of the king. Look at verse 31. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul. Oh yeah, and David said this, and David said this, and David said this, and not a cause. And so Saul sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail. Can you picture David talking to the king? Let no man's heart fail because of him. And he points to himself. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. My. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight. I mean, it's like, just look at you, boy. You are but a youth. And he is a man of war from his youth. Now, by the way, what's he mean, you're but a youth? You're just a runt. You're just a kid. God can't use kids. Are you with me? That's what he's saying. You're just a little baby boy, a child, a lad. And Goliath is a giant, and he's a warrior, and he's been in fights since his youth. And you're going to be committing suicide if you go out against that giant. No way, David, you can win. Now, let me stop here. Saul didn't understand two things about David. Number one, he didn't understand David. He didn't know about David and his skills and his relationship with God. Number two, he didn't understand God. Saul didn't understand that God could and would work through a boy. Let me stop here. In Texas, we had a group with us called Life Action Crusade, and a big revival team, and God was bringing revival to our church. And they put on a big seminar for young people throughout the metro area of Texas, Dallas, Texas. That's where I was. And so I was meeting with youth pastors, and there was one large youth group, very large, 100 and some young people, just the other side of the metro area, and the youth pastor, I never met him. And one day I got a call from his secretary. Said, our youth pastor wants to come and meet with you about sending a bunch of youth to this youth seminar you've got during this thing going on. He said, can you meet with him? I said, yes. Here's a youth pastor running over 100 young people. So, I have a guy come, and he's a high school boy. This guy, I think, is probably a junior, maybe a senior in high school. I thought, well, isn't that something? The youth pastor sent this high school boy. I said, what's your name, young man? Yeah, I'll talk to you. He said, my name is, and he gave the name of that youth pastor. He was the youth pastor. A teenage boy. Over 100 in his youth group. Hey. God can't use teenagers. Oh, I've seen God use teenagers through the years. Pastor Jonna would say the same. God can use anybody that's surrendered to the Lord in a local church and evangelism and in a camp ministry. God can use anybody. So that's the thought there, is that, let's look at verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant, talking about himself, kept his father's sheep. There came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. So these lions and bears would sneak in, grab them, and you hear the lamb bleeding, and them dragging it away out into the bush to devour it. He says, I went out after him, and I smote him, And I delivered it out of his mouth, and when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him and slew him. You know, when I get to heaven, I'm going to get an instant replay of that. To me, that's pretty awesome. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. I like what Charles Swindoll said. He said, David says, you know why I can fight Goliath, Saul? Because the same God who gave me power over a lion and a bear will give me power over Goliath. It's God who will empower me. So just let me at him. So, sir, you know why I was able to slay that lion? I don't know, young man. Do you know why I was able to slay the bear that took that lamb out of the flock? Tell me. Do you know why I was able to pursue the bear, kill him, rescue the little lion? Why? Why, son? Because God did it. God's the one who delivered me from the lion and the bear. He can do it with this Philistine too. Now, notice Saul's response. And Saul said unto David, go. And the Lord, that word Lord is in all capital letters here, Jehovah God, be with you. Interesting coming from the mouth of a man who had a record of disobeying God. So it's like, Saul, quit giving all those pious cliches to this young man. That's what I thought. Remember this, Saul. You're the one who had him play the harp when you were demon-possessed, and you threw a spear trying to pin him to the wall. You're the one who did that. So quit saying, the Lord be with you. That's what my comment is. Okay, now look at verse 38. And Saul, and I love this, and I know I've got to hurry. And Saul armed David with his armor. Here, take this, kid. And he put a helmet of brass upon his head. He armed him with a coat of mail. Here's David, take my armor. It's like some of you young boys, you young men, you've got what? Size 10 neck? And what do you wear? Size 30 waist? Size 25 waist? Well, here's this armor. It's like a size 20 neck. It's like the pants are like, or the gear that he wore from his waist down, it's like the waist of like 70. His chest is probably, you fit 2 or 3 of you in his chest, the size of his chest. And his arms, so here you are flopping around. Here's David flopping around. I got a picture of David up there, if you see him. And so Saul armed David with his armor, put a helmet of brass upon his head, and you could take that helmet and spin it around. Also, he armed him with a coat of mail. You know what that coat of mail is? It's chains. Chains that when you're stabbed with a sword, it won't go through and kill you. So take these weapons I'm not able to use, young man. Take these items, you aren't working for me, but I'm sure they're going to work for you. It's like, I don't know if Saul was being sarcastic, making fun of David. I don't know. I'll find out someday. Verse 39, and David girded his sword upon his armor, and essayed to go, means he tried to go, he attempted to walk, for he had not proved it. It says he hadn't put that armor to the test. And David said unto Saul, I can't go with these. I've not proved them. I haven't put them to use. And David took them off. Imagine David, here he is, wearing that size 36 regular, trying on Saul's 54 long. David who wears a 15 neck, trying on Saul's 9 to 20 inch neck. He puts on the helmet, spins it around, kind of like our boys putting on dad's suit or coats. One writer said, but David quickly perceived that this was unsuited to him. The one who has much to do with God in secret can't employ worldly means and methods in public. The man of faith had no use for carnal weapons, such things as ecclesiastic titles, dress, ritualistic ceremonies which are imposing to the eyes of the natural man, but are bubbles and baubles to the spiritual. I like that. Now look at verse 40. He took his staff in his hand, chose him 5 small stones out of the brook, put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even a scrip, that's a traveling pouch. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. By the way, how many of you know why he took 5 stones? Raise your hand. Because he only needed 1 stone. How many don't know why 5 stones? Let me see your hands. Okay, how many didn't raise your hand? Let me see your hand. All right. Well, I had 1 stone for Goliath, and Goliath had 4 brothers, all giants. He knew if he killed Goliath, the brothers would come after him. So he was ready for them too. So look at verse 41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield before him. So it's not just Goliath, but now he had a shield bearer carrying that big door, which was a big shield with him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him. For he was but a youth and ruddy and of fair countenance. So one writer said, he took one look down at him and sneered, a mere youngster, apple-cheeked and peach-fuzzed. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. He used the name of his gods. Goliath was the worshiper of the false gods Dagon and Beelzebub. He believed idols made of stone could help him defeat the God of the universe. I wrote 2 words. Poor fool. Poor fool. Verse 44, and the Philistine said to David, come to me. You see this? Bring it on, buddy. I'll give thy flesh to the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. I'll make dead meat out of you for the buzzards. I'll turn you into a nasty morsel for animals in the field, the foxes, the lions, the bears, the mice. So you get the picture. Goliath looks in awe at a young boy as he approaches him. Goliath is dumbfounded. What? This boy's coming out to meet me. He doesn't even have armor, and look, he doesn't even have a shield bearer. What on earth? He's not a trained warrior. Well, let me say, first of all, Goliath is humbled. Second of all, he's embarrassed. Third of all, he's enraged. He disdains David. That means he regards David with utter contempt. Then he gets sarcastic. Am I a dog? You've come after me? He curses David. He issues a challenge. Bring it on, boy. He threatens, I'm going to kill you, leave your body there for the birds, the wild animals to eat. And I think at this moment, personally, and this is not in the text, but just my opinion, I think he tells his armor bearer, hey, stand down. Stand down, buddy. Stand over to the side. I personally think that Goliath probably took his helmet off. Look me in the eye, boy. Maybe he even took his armor off. I don't know. Whatever he does, he drops his guard. Goliath the intimidator. Talk about intimidation. One writer said, that's our major battle when we face giants. When they intimidate us, we get tongue-tied. Our thoughts get confused. We forget how to pray. We focus on the odds against us. We forget who we represent. And we stand there with our knees knocking. He says, I wonder what God must think when all the while he has promised, might, power is available. There's no one on the earth greater. Trust me. So I'm thinking, where's David's focus right now? What's his focus? What's he looking at? I don't think David's focus is the giant right now. David's not intimidated. Where are his eyes? Head? No. I think his eyes are on the Lord. So then David says to the Philistines, look at verse 45, thou comest to me with sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand. I will smite thee, sir. You can see Goliath. What? I'll kill you. I'll take your head. I'll chop your head off, buddy. I will give your carcass. Look at me, sir. I will give your carcass I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there's a God in heaven. Amen? And all this assembly, all these out here watching, shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword or spirit, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. So what's he saying to Goliath? It's not my battle, sir. It's the Lord's. He will fight for me. He's the one whose reputation is at stake here. And the second of all, David didn't have to impress anyone. He didn't have to impress his brothers, Eliab, or anybody. Or he didn't have to impress God. He was simply being watch this, a conduit of blessing. God could work in and through him to win this victory. Verse 48, and it came to pass, here it is, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to David, David took several steps backward, turned his back to the giant, and ran. Right? No. What happened? He came nigh to meet David, and David hasted, means he hurried up, and he ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Here's the Philistine, the big giant, and the army. It's like David saying, let's get it done now, buddy. No messing around. Come on, giant, bring it on. I'm going to ignore you, or I'm not going to ignore you or run from you. David ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. So here's David with a sling and a stone before a fully armed giant and his arm bearer. And David, verse 49, put his hand in the bag, took thence a stone, and around and around and around and around and around and around and around. And one little stone went up in the air. And the giant came a tumbling down. So he slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, and the stone sunk. It's like into his forehead. It's like the giant said, you know what? I don't think I've ever had anything enter my head like that before. Anyway, that's a joke. But anyway, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face. Probably broke his nose, blooded his eyes. Just like that. Whoosh, 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 zip, blood, crash. Down comes Goliath, big mouth and all. He fell like a tree to the ground. His armor bearer is in a daze. Can you see that? The armor bearer is right there beside him, his mouth wide open, his eyes glazed and staring. The Philistine army, look at him, they're all in shock. Whoa, what happened? And so David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling, smote the Philistine, slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. I wonder why God put that there. No sword. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, took his sword, took Goliath's sword, big one, sharp, and took it out of the sheath, slew him, stabbed him, and cut his head off. That's quite a scene, don't you think? That huge, heavy sword of Goliath that had been used through the years to cut off the heads of many a soldier. In front of the entire sideline of the Philistine warriors, David disrobes Goliath and all of his armor and puts it in a pile, and now their champion is stripped of all his outward strength. He takes the sword of Goliath, cuts off the giant's head. Quite a job. I can picture David putting the sword to the side of the pile of armor, just lays it down. He lifts the head of Goliath, and to be seen by both sides, And the would-be champions, the Philistines and the cowards and the children of Israel, and they all fled. Look at them run. Look at them run. And the men of Israel and Judah arose, shouted. He pursued the Philistines until they came to the valley, the gates of Ekron, and wounded the Philistines. The wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way, etc. Typical of many of God's people. Watch me. God's people, many of them not willing to take a stand for God. Too full, hear me, of their own fears and excuses as to why they can't witness, why they can't do great things for God. Then you've got an individual most likely to succeed, by the way, an individual most unlikely to succeed, which is like most of us, step forward and illustrates the power of God. All of a sudden, they're all in the battle. It's like God's people being unwilling to take the initiative and step out by faith. And God raises up a person, could be a junior higher, or a high schooler, or a college, or a single, or a married couple, a new believer, an older believer. He raises them up who are willing to trust God and step out, and the rest follow. All the while taking credit for the great idea that this guy has. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines. They spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine, brought it to Jerusalem, put his armor in the tent. Now let me skip ahead. Verse 55, and when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is that youth? And Abner says, as my soul liveth, O king, I don't know, I can't tell. And the king said, inquire whose son that stripling is. And I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute here. I thought David was appointed by you, Saul, to be his armor bearer. Surely you'd recognize him, Saul. Now, I think years have passed, a few years, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe David was between 16 and 18 years old now. One writer in his book, and I'm going to close, said this, it's called The Land in the Book. He says, we do not know how long a period intervened between the return of David to his father's house, his appearance before the king on the morning of the duel with Goliath. If it were 2 or 3 years, it's possible David had, in the meantime, suddenly shot up from boyhood to youth, tall and robust. His personal appearance might have been so changed as to bear little resemblance to that ruddy lad who played skillfully on the harp. It's a fact that lads in this country, particularly of the higher class, are often very fair, full, and handsome until they're 14 years of age. And during the next 2 or 3 years, a surprising change takes place. They're not only spring into full-grown manhood, as if by magic, but all their former beauty disappears. Their complexion becomes dark, their features harsh and angular, the whole expression of countenance stern and disagreeable. Maybe they have a beard, they dress different. Look at verse 57. And David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines. Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. What you got in your hand, buddy? Oh, just a head. Head probably as big as the piano there. Maybe not quite as big, but almost. What you got there, buddy? What's swinging? Well, what's all that blood and guts? Well, I just cut his head off, that's all. Here, I'll give you some lessons and I'll close. Lessons from Goliath. Here it is, lessons from Goliath. Hey, Goliath, what do you think? He thought that outward strength was the key to victory. Bigger, better, stronger. Hey, to be used of God, you got to be a great athlete. No. Hey, to be used of God, you got to be. No. Number 2, he thought that intimidation would win the victory for him. Yell louder, threaten, accuse, be sarcastic, blaspheme. How wrong he was. One writer said, he was a self-centered man with an ego as huge as his frame. He believed no man could beat him. What does God say? Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, to all the glory of God. Or God says, wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Number 3, he looked on the outward. That's a little boy to fight me. You know, the world looks at those kind of things. Wow, you're just young. Who knows you? Hey, how many degrees do you have behind your name, buddy? Well, I went to high school. You'll never be used of God. That's the way the world looks at it. That's not how God looks at it. Number 4, he let his guard down. Goliath let his guard down. Number 5, he trusted false gods. Now, his lesson from David, here we go. Number 1, David took the will of God step by step. What was his first step? Obey Dad. Young people, his first step, obey his father. Be a servant, tend the sheep. That's his first step. Number 2, his priorities were right. His life centered around being a servant and learning to worship God. Just a servant. Number 3, David's focus was right. He was more concerned about the reputation and glory of God than he was his own safety. And what meant by a giant, he said, my God is greater than you. Number 4, David's actions were bold. He's not intimidated by false accusations. He wasn't fazed when someone said, dare to input your motives into his. We know why you're really doing this, David. He wasn't sidetracked when someone wanted him not to be himself and to use untested, non-fitting methods and armor. And he wasn't held back by the fact that no one wanted to face the giant. Peer pressure. Number 5, David knew his own limitations. He knew he had great skills in certain areas. He also knew he was David, not Saul. This is so big, and I wish I had time to camp on this. Just be yourself, filled with the Spirit of God, and serve God. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be Pastor John. Don't try to be anybody else. You be who you are. Word-filled, Spirit-filled. Number 6, David was prepared. What was he doing in the background? He was worshiping God. I believe he was learning the Old Testament and then putting it to music. He was busy preparing himself to serve. And last of all, David's God was real. Is yours? Amen. David's God was real. He had seen God do it once. Why not again? You know who the real giant was here? It's like, will the real giant please stand up? The real giant was David. That's right. And then the real giant of giants was God. Amen? Amen? Father, thanks for your word. Thanks for allowing us as a body here to sit at the feet of this giant, David, and seeing how you were a big God to him. Lord, I pray that when we're faced with the giants in our life, that we'd first of all look at you, a big God, knowing that with you all things are possible.